Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Back again over on the Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. I am your host, your humble servant, Trek Lord of West Michigan, Charlie Carden, coming at you with my partner of lo these many years, my number one, Mr. Peter Stein. Good afternoon, my friend.
Hello.
Well, we have a fun show for you as always. We're continuing our voyage through Lower Decks, season 5, and then we are going into our getting into the back half of season 6 of Star Trek: The Next Generation. But first and foremost, as always, we'd like to give a little love to the folks over on our Secret Friends Unite Patreon. If you visit patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite, you can try us for free for 7 days. And then if you like what you hear, you can stick around for as little as $2 a month. You're getting early shows, ad-free shows, great bonus content, all kinds of fun stuff and new stuff all the time. These wonderful folks know what's going on. Derek Trevelyan, Francie, Xbox Expansion Pass, Luke Lore, and my Uncle Tim. John Sedorf, Phoenix Sisters Cosplay, Kelly and Crayley. Brendan Myers, Corey and HD, Matthew Keel, and we have a new person this week. This individual is a very, very big deal in the SFU community because he has been my gateway to getting a lot of great interviews recently, including one that we're going to publish at the end of this week with Adam Nimoy that Peter and I did very recently, and it was a very powerful conversation with the man who is the son of Spock. So you're definitely going to want to tune into that because it's available in the short term on our Patreon only. So if you sign up for free for 7 days, you'll be able to get your hands on it. But this gentleman's name is Kurt Krug, and he's very specific in the pronunciation of his last name. And he said, remember the Klingon from Star Trek 3, who was played by Christopher Lloyd, was Commander Krug. That's our friend Kurt. And Kurt, I know you're listening right now. But something we like to do when we get a new Patreon on this show, Peter and I take you and we give you a Star Trek race. So I'll go first since I just kind of threw this at Peter in the pre-roll, even though it was on the notes beforehand. I'm going to say Kurt would make, because he's so traditional, he's so rooted in the traditions of the past, because he's so knowledgeable about things like Marvel Comics and Star Trek. He is my Vulcan high priest. He's a master of knowledge. He's a comic books, Marvel, Star Trek, the original series, Next Generation. He is steeped in knowledge, and the Ketrick arc, as featured in, I hate to reference the JJ films, but that's where that one came from. He is my Vulcan high priest. Peter, nice. What does Kurt seem like to you when you think about Star Trek?
I'm going to say a founder. Changeling. In the sense that you can go to a lot of places and meet a lot of people and all those sorts of things. So
yeah, no doubt about it.
Get around, and even if no one knows exactly who you are, you're there.
You got your fingers in every little pie. I love it. So that's cool. All right, well, Kurt, we're glad to have you on board, and hopefully you're enjoying the fruits of your labor. And we have a lot of great other spotlight content coming up that Kurt has helped me get set up, creators, artists, all kinds of great folks. So that kind of stuff is going to be available over on the Patreon. Last but not least, our top tier Patreons are, as always, the nice family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry. We're very grateful for everything that you do for us. So thank you very much. And with that, we're on with the show. But don't forget patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite. 7 days for free, $2 a month. It's like a 16th of a cup of coffee at Starbucks for all that entertainment. Or as I quoted a little while back from the Blues Brothers, that's a lot of entertainment for $2. All right, moving on. We had a great short come out from the Roddenberry archives, or a company called Otoy. Is Otoy an acronym? Are you aware?
It might be.
Okay,
These fun fact. These are the same. A lot of these are the same people who worked on the Stage 9 fan game of the
gotcha,
Enterprise D several
gotcha.
years ago. So these guys are
Okay.
very, very good at what they do.
Oh my God, are they ever? Well, they gave us a full length short. They've given us over the last year or two little snippets of shorts. You know, they did the Memory Wall, which was taken from a removed segment from Star Trek: The Motion Picture, featuring a very lifelike CGI rendering of Spock from that film. Going even further back to the cage, we got a great rendering of Yeoman Colt, who was a character in that that did not survive to the regular series. Didn't get killed, but didn't move to the regular series, I should say. And this one, in confluence with the 30th anniversary of Star Trek Generations, was called Unification, a very
Mhm.
emotional piece involving a Kirk from that film, as we saw him at the end. And Peter, you shared a great article, which we just talked about in the pre-roll, so I've not read the whole thing. But based
Yeah.
on that, talk to us about what's in this article and talk to us about the short.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with the website Fan Film Factor, you really should be. They review a lot of these sorts of things, but also any random fan films that you may find, including the ones that I work on. You'll never see my name because I'm not really that far forward, um, but you get to see a lot of these things and analyses of like what people were getting at and some interviews and that sort of thing. But this particular article points out a lot of the little, I wouldn't say Easter eggs because they're not like they're not necessarily there for you to find because most of them are actually important to what we're seeing. So I guess the first one is the number, the
Mhm.
765874. That's Yeoman Colt's serial number.
Oh, wow.
I believe
Okay.
comics. And the main reason for that is there's this whole bit that they've been doing with a lot of their shorts of Yeoman Colt kind of bouncing between times, which we see referenced in this as well, where we see her wearing a Kelvin Universe uniform.
Right. It's
Uh,
bouncing even in between like that.
yeah. This goes back all the way to the motion picture novel.
Whoa.
Where there's a moment where Spock has a mind meld with Yeoman Colt and sees like visions of the future, which is kind of where we get some of those flashes in this particular short and
Wow.
earlier shorts.
Right.
So basically, the idea is that Yeoman Colt has been sent to do some mission, and from what we can gather from this, it's to find Jim Kirk. But so that's kind of where all of that's getting tied to with that particular number.
Right.
But then we also have a shot of Gary Mitchell, which they did actually have the
that
original
keeps
actor from Where No Man Has Gone Before. They got
Gary
him to come
Lockwood?
back and do some. They got Gary Lockwood to come back and do some facial references for them.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's absolutely nuts.
So
Wow.
yeah, so they got him to come back. So the idea is that yes, we saw him get a rock dropped on him, but that didn't necessarily kill him.
That didn't suggest to me that would have killed him at all.
No,
You know, it just
knock him out temporarily, I suppose.
But it's never just now, because this is, as we were talking about, non-canonical.
Mhm.
Gary Mitchell did make a comeback in a crossover comic in the 90s when Marvel had the property, and also Yeoman Colt also did a time travel thing in the Star Trek The Early Voyages Marvel comic that was in that
Yep,
late 90s
which
bracket.
is what this is referencing.
I figured as much. That
Yep.
was my vibe. And again, without me pouring through this article, because I just got it. But what else was it? Gary Mitchell came back. I think it was when one of the Star Trek and X-Men crossovers.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's what it was. Because I remember reading those. I loved it when Marvel had the property because it was so of its own time, meaning it was very 90s.
Yeah, it did its own
Yeah,
thing.
and those are largely out of print, though they've found their ways back into trade paperbacks and stuff. So they're out, and you can find them in a lot of dollar bins at a comic shop if you're a hunter. Because I have some. The only comics I own these days, because I'm a digital reader, are ones like that. So I do have a number of them, but I was always a huge fan. But we jump into the short. If I'll do the brief walkthrough, and Peter, jump in and stop me if you've got something. But we just see a sunny meadow. It looks like a memorial park, a cemetery, if you will. And Kirk is walking through, and he appears exactly as he did when he died at the end of Generations, though unscathed. Minus the bridge that fell on him. And he's walking down the way, and he comes to a gathering of people and some familiar faces. And it was funny, I was watching the credits just now, and please, Peter, jump in. There's a gentleman standing at the forefront wearing a First Contact, later TNG style dress uniform. Not a captain, because the middle part of it is white, not gray. But in the credits, it said Crusher. So was that was that Jack Crusher?
It's possible.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but it's possible.
I just don't know what it's in reference to. The most notable thing is, as he walks through to his right, we see the delightful actress Robin Curtis, who I got to meet in Mission Chicago. I got to let her know that Star Trek 3 was my favorite Star Trek film, and she gushed with emotion. She gushed with thanks and gratitude, and so she's tops in my book. And again, this entire short is without dialogue. So it's all in the emotion. Something I've read that, there's so much storytelling that can be told in the faces and in the body language. She gestures back to an older Vulcan standing behind her, which, and I'm sure your article illustrates this, or maybe it doesn't. Yes, this is the child that Spock would have fathered with Saavik during his Genesis invoked Ponfar on the Genesis planet in Star Trek 3, which was a dropped story concept, so much to the point that during the two scenes that Saavik had at the beginning of Star Trek 4, one on the ship and one off the ship, where she's standing with Spock's mother and watching the bird fly away, that you would have seen that she got a big old pregnant belly, which it seems like they would have cut out her other scene and that scene, because the two don't really make sense. She would have been walking around talking to Spock, and nobody would have been like, well, who's the father? What's going on? You know what I mean? So that was pretty great. And then, we move from there. He approaches a figure standing at the end of this queue, and it is the time traveler that we see in the hologram form, Yor, in an episode of Star Trek Discovery, as actually being from the Kelvin universe in 2379, which was the same year that First Contact took place, but he's wearing a Season 1 TNG jumpsuit. Oh, my God. And he hands Kirk what we ultimately see as his Monster Maroon badge, his Starfleet badge.
Yep, with the chip missing
exactly. Leading further credence to the fact that he has died, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that it's actually him. Which, as an extra little point, is they did show Yeoman Colt standing in front of the LCARS screen that showed Kirk's body from the Daystrom station from Picard season 3,
tying it right back to Picard. Exactly. So this Kirk figure transitions to a blackened out, blue walled
2001 Space Odyssey tunnel.
Very much so. Ahead of him is Kirk as he appeared in the first season of TOS. At the end of the tunnel is a very clean screen grab of Kirk walking onto the bridge simulator at the beginning of Star Trek 2. Was he holding the book? I feel like
he wasn't.
Oh, but
it was not. This was a digital recreation of Kirk.
It just absolutely made me feel like that was the.
It was so close that it did look like it, but it wasn't.
So within moments, the other two visages fade, and we're back with Kirk from Generations. He steps forward into.
Clearly, he steps into Spock's room on New Vulcan, as you see. You see kind of the vista of the planet, but you're surrounded by Vulcan imagery with the bell thing from the. I don't remember what that thing is called. I'm sure it's got a
gong?
name.
The gong?
It's not the gong. It's got the bells on it that they shake.
Oh,
During,
they're like troika, clink, clink, clink. From
that thing
from
the
the
Ponfar stuff.
Kunat Khalife, the ritualistic combat, right?
Yep. Yeah. So you see that on the wall. You see you see Spock's lyre on the wall.
Right.
And then Kirk approaches, and you see Spock, as we last saw him in Into Darkness,
right,
laying on this bed, clearly at the end of his life, as we see
right,
kind of a pan over
right.
his bedside table, and we see an Idic, and then we see the little box that holds the photo that we see in Star Trek Beyond.
That Zachary Quinto receives at the end of that film,
and so Kirk approaches, you see Spock kind of realize that this is who it is, and then they clasp hands, as Kirk and Spock generally do, but they imitate the camera angle from a motion picture, where Spock is laying on the bio bed.
Yeah, in sick bay, and after he's had his life-changing experience with the memory wall with V'ger. And it clearly, from that point, the portrayal of the character changed immensely through Star Trek 2. And then we have a slow pull, and then we fade to black. This, and again, it's all over socials, and I couldn't agree more. I saw one person who didn't like it with them, like, shut up. Who the hell couldn't? I thought it was one of the most powerful things related in Star Trek that I've ever seen. And it was a short, not made by Paramount and non-canonical. So it was one of these for the fans, by the fans kind of deal. And I was blown away. I was absolutely blown away.
Yeah.
Sam Witwer was the stand-in for Kirk. Sam Witwer, he's kind of like Samuel L. Jackson. He's in everything, it seems. But that was pretty spectacular. It was wonderful to see Robin Curtis back in the role that she made her own when she took it over and started.
And it's not even Robin Curtis of today. They aged her.
Oh, they did. Oh,
they did. They made her older.
Right.
So this is supposed to be, late 24th century.
Right. 2370.
So they made her look older.
2371, which would be almost 100 years after the last time we saw her.
Well, it's not even clear exactly when the present is supposed to take place.
Right. Because if you think about it, Kirk was in the Nexus, he left the Nexus, but Guinan also left the Nexus, but she was in two places, so I was never able to.
There's kind of the theory that maybe Kirk's essence was still kind of stuck in the Nexus, and so Gary Mitchell just kind of dragged it out. Is kind of what the current theory of how any of this would have worked.
Right, exactly. So it's beautiful because in the at least the line that I have, and I'm not even a 20% of the way into the article, but this really sums it up pretty perfectly. Trekkers are being left to their own devices to interpret unification, which I like. I absolutely like that because and it's a brilliant move, and again, not by Paramount, though, with their blessing. The Okudas were involved. The likeness
Shatner himself was involved.
The likeness of Leonard Nimoy was granted by his widow, Susan Day Nimoy, who was also a Star Trek actor. She played an admiral twice in TNG and DS9. And this is great, right on the heels of our conversation with Adam Nimoy just earlier this week. I've just never really seen anything that was so. Because
I think a lot of it may come from the fact that, one, we haven't seen Jim Kirk since 94.
Right. Yeah, right.
But then we never had like a true moment where both of these characters were able to say goodbye to each other.
Right.
Because we saw Kirk die separately, and then we saw Spock die separately. Spock died off camera, and Kirk died,
very much under a bridge.
Under the bridge on camera.
Right.
But to have these characters like face the end together was just something that everyone wanted. And so that someone finally was like, here you go.
It's what we never got out of Star Wars, having our, big three together in one last hurrah, and then to have them, since they all died anyway. Truly powerful stuff. And I would say, it's pulling from, what I think is some of the finest Star Trek, which is our TOS trilogy of 2, 3, and 4. The absolute best. I actually I have the benefit of having a small TV in my office, and I just sometimes listen to music, sometimes podcasts, and sometimes I'll just have Star Trek on in the background. I got all the way through Lower Decks, which is going to be necessary for our upcoming rundown of the series once we're finished here. And just this week, I did 2, 3, and 4 just in the background, and only pausing for moments to turn over and watch it because I'm busy doing my job, and I'm just the moments in those films, watching Spock's death and then watching Spock be back at the end of Star Trek 3. Yeah. And then watching them all stand together in the moment he has with his father at the end of 4. It's just it's just super powerful.
They are like the quintessential example of what it is to be a Star Trek film.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So totally awesome. So that is available on the Otoy YouTube channel. I have tucked it away in my favorites for love and forever because I have no doubt I will go back to it time and again. So yeah, good stuff. Any final thoughts?
Not really. I mean, it's a great short. It was really cool to see that they managed to, like, there's still a little bit of uncanny valley with some of the face, but generally it looked really, really good.
Yeah, they're getting to quite a point where they can.
So it was one of those, like, as much as I really don't want to see people do it, you could almost see Kirk making some sort of an appearance somewhere because of that.
Right.
Which would be cool.
Maybe it'll lead to that. Who is to say? All right. Well, let's move on. And we'll start talking more about Lower Decks. And I got to tell you, this 2-pack delivered to me, as you can see, potentially my favorite episode of the series. And that would be getting into, I'll jump in here into episode 5 of season 5, which is Starbase 80, ?
Interrobang.
And I have pulled from that a tentative working title of these is He's Got the 80. There's just absolutely nothing that I didn't enjoy about this. So, great summary. Ransom uses too much disinfectant gel while Mariner gets paranoid about curses, all aboard or related to the dreadful Starbase 80, one of the most nefarious locales within Lower Decks that we have not seen yet. What we've seen only
him on screen once on a call, like the commander was trying to find his contacts through a Rolodex.
Right, exactly. So, but yeah, we start the episode off. It's our gang doing what they do. They've just gotten back from a mission on, did they say Pisces 5 or something that's like Pisces, which is
something like that, yeah.
Because I'm a Pisces, that cracks me up. But I do love it. They're wearing wetsuits, which have already been added to the Memory Alpha uniform page for that time period, which I think
Pisces 9.
Pisces 9.
Also funny because it's very much like fish in Greek.
Exactly. So. And we get quite a bit of that. So Tendi has a great line to Mariner because Mariner's very excited about everything going on. Tendi says, I wouldn't have taken you for a seaweed girl. But yeah, the ship breaks down. Their navigational what's it, who's it goes wrong. They only have impulse power and they can only reach to get the repair, the dreaded Starbase 80. So...
Yep, and Mariner loses her shit.
She does, yeah, to the point that Ransom simply says, she's doing the no, and Ransom says, are you going to do that the whole way?
Which she continues to do until the cutoff for the credits, which is hysterical.
They did it good. Get back from the cold open. Music cue that I loved, it was the Regular One music where Bones bumps into the hanging corpse. It was that music, which I thought was it was pretty good. And then we get into the decon gel part, which was which we teased about. Oh my god, check me out! I'm a regular T'Pol over here.
Oh my god,
Ransom just makes it too uncomfortable because he's enjoying it too much. Oh, that's the stuff. So then we get on. Yeah, we're at the station. They're doing the gel because they can't use the transporter because Starbase 80 is just it's comically terrible. Everything about it is bad and has a terrible reputation.
Yeah, and hysterically, like almost all of the tech is like clearly TOS.
Right, yeah, but everything is disgusting. It's like someone took a piece of pizza and whipped it up and down the walls. Everything's so gross. We meet quickly the base commander, who is Knox, and she's voiced by a stand-up comedian who I adore called Nicole Byer. So nice grab there. Probably a friend of
Tawny.
Of Tawny, because Tawny's so big in the scene. She was a Second City, as was Eugene. But she says she's the diplomatic liaison which makes the uniform even more confusing because it's an Enterprise jumpsuit zipped up to the top, no 3-button
No black
undershirt,
shirt. Yeah.
and she has 3 modern era pips. So she's Starfleet, but she calls herself a diplomatic liaison. I don't know. I'm sure I'm picking nits on that. So
Hysterically, I wore wore that combination of pips with an Enterprise uniform for a role playing game.
a
couple years, like last year.
That's
so it was like, oh, I've done that before.
That's totally awesome. All right, so they're starting to we get great. Starbase 80 grows on you like a fungus. The engineering compartment has a callback to Enterprise because the gravity plating works weird, and we get the first of our 2 really great, or what is later dubbed the biggest weirdos on the station, Chad the corn dog vendor.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Because they don't have replicators. But we find out that something is making the Cerritos crew go all zombie. Their eyes get glowy. They walk around drooling. They're licking the walls. It's just weird. So then we get our crew split up. So Mariner and everybody else. Now, Talyn is not really in this episode until is she? I'm drawing a blank. Is she not really playing a part?
She's in this episode, but she doesn't do a whole lot. She just kind of tags along a little bit.
So it's a separate split between our main characters going with the commander of the station and trying to get to the bottom of why people are turning into zombies, and then we have Ransom and the captain together trying to track down the part that they want.
Trying to track down Jacobowski, who's in fact the first person that we meet.
Right, exactly. And it's voiced by legend Stephen Root, who has been on live action Star Trek in a lot of different roles, particularly a Klingon, which he was the Klingon Captain Unification. And of course is Milton from Office Space, is the way that a lot of people will know him. But my favorite portion, first of all, Akamarians, who are they have knife gangs that roam the station. They own 50% of the station, which is so nuts. But the part of the episode that completely blows my mind is the clothing store they walk by.
Oh, that was nuts.
My God, so many Easter eggs. I wrote down just a few, but it's nowhere close.
You have Picard's Monster Maroon from Tapestry.
That's what that was. Yes.
Because it's got the stripes in the middle.
Yeah. We have across the back rack hanging in the back 5 versions going from TOS to Disco Price to Strange New Worlds of the same style of uniform. An outfit of the Edo. You have a motion picture uniform, and the best bit is a huge pile in the middle of the store of just TOS red uniforms.
Yeah.
And then the vendor says, "Yeah, our entire stock is discarded uniforms for people who have died." Which is just crazy. And so Tendi goes, "Oh, guy, it's retro." Then Mariner does say my favorite line in regards to Rutherford. He's cursed. He's got the 80, which I think is great. 8080. Yeah. So they're chasing around. They try to find a solution with the station's doctor, who is British and he's part Tarchanan, which is another
which is even more hilarious.
Yeah. What was the name of that episode with Geordi and his friend? His friend from another ship. I'm drawing a blank. It was
Identity Crisis.
There you go. Yeah. So we're there. Yes. Yeah. And of course we talked about it because we've already been to that portion of the show. So yeah, they finally get to the bottom of it. Every time one of our people taps their own comm badge, whoever they get zapped a little bit and it turns them into a zombie. Nobody on Starbase 80 has a comm badge because they just use wall comms, so that's why none of their people are affected. Again, the little promenade area on SB 80 has a sign that says "Famous Chunky Sauce." I don't really want to know what that's all about. So they know they got to go to the Cerritos and do a thing to affect it differently. And Mariner says to Knox, "How do we do that?" She says, "With the help of my 2 biggest weirdos." And it's Chad, and it's Chad, the corn dog guy, and then the British doctor dude.
Yep.
They're on the Cerritos. Chad whips out corn dogs like Wolverine's claws, and he's going to attack a group that's coming at him. We're found that the wonderful dolphins who are in citation ops, one of them is infected by a life form, which we're able to.
It's an anaphasic life form.
Finally, get out of it. The doctor solves it from a good old fashioned boinking. So he hits somebody on the head, and does the same with the dolphin, and he spits it out. It's a life form called Clem, and I think it's voiced by Paul F. Tompkins, who is Miglimo, guest role, and he will stay on Starbase 80 because obviously he fits in. We get a great ending montage where everything is fine except the captain and Ransom are still. They made a deal with Stephen Root's character that they will get the bit of tech they're looking for if they help him get all the bats out of the dungeon level, which they were on earlier. And they're still down there doing it. And the captain's like, she's just, I'm not going to let it beat me. I'm going to get the big one. You just see in the distance eyes and big teeth. And Ransom's like, it's not even going to fit in the trap. And then it pulls out to a long shot of the station. And you just voice over saying, this goddamn place is not going to beat me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So
no giant effing bat is keeping me on this goddamn station.
So suffice it to say, this was a solid 10 for me. Gold, and then the Easter eggs in the shop, the Akamarians, the Tarchanin, the Enterprise jumpsuits, all of the TOS tech. For me, best episode of the season so far could be the top episode of the series for me. I was just over the moon with this. They hit, and we still have, based on trailers, we still have the Harry Kim episode coming up. So
yep.
This just I was just over the moon. I was totally blown away by this one.
This was just a stitch and a half. It was hysterical.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I was laughing almost the entire time because it just had so many references, so many really dumb things, and it was just ridiculous.
Oh my goodness. Cool. All right. Episode 6 is yours.
Episode 6 is Of Gods and Angles. But
geometry. Mariner
teams up with a troubled ensign while the Cerritos hosts peace talks between civilizations.
Oh my God.
That's a very nondescript description.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Memory Alpha's not working. But you know what I found out? Memory Alpha grabs what's on Paramount Plus because it was word for word the same. So I'm like,
that tracks.
Yeah, that's kind of lame. That doesn't really give much. But
they have been getting better about getting their episode summaries out.
Yes,
faster.
Absolutely. Because we did run into that. So all right, well, walk us through it. What happened?
All right. So this one opens up and we find out that we're hosting peace talks between the orbs and the cubes, who are photonic beings made completely out of energy and are, as the name suggests, orbs and cubes.
And they're cantankerous.
And they are so grouchy because you have like this moment where it's like, yeah, I had to tell the orbs that they don't like the corners on our hallways, and there's nothing I can do about it. Like, what are we going to do about the corners on our hallways?
Aren't those cubes a little too pointy?
Yeah, and it's so ridiculous. But then we also have, like, remember, our characters got all promotions in the last season, so we've been dealing with lieutenants. And then it's like, oh, well, there's always going to be a scrappy ensign who just is up to no good. And we see this other ensign, Ollie, who she starts piling all this spherical furniture on top of a grav sled. It's like, oh, no, it's totally fine. It all falls over. So it's like
she's like racing a golf cart around in the corridor. She's trouble. Yeah,
she kind of is reminiscent of Mariner in season 1, which is the point.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, so we have that. We go and we see Boimler, and he's reading his alternate universe pad, and then a shtick that runs through the rest of the episode is everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that's a alternate universe pad. I know because the bezel is about 3.5 inches." He's like, "Wait, don't you know it's red?" Oh yeah, it's red. Yeah,
and Tendi gets in on the same joke later. So.
Yeah, and it's so ridiculous. First it's Rutherford, then it's Tendi, and it's like, oh yeah, I noticed because the specifications are off, not because it's red.
Right. And so what he read in this pad that's got him in a twist is that in the alt-verse, he and Dr. Tana are pals, and she has a nickname for him, Flip. And he's like, I'm going to make sure that we're pals. And so he goes to sickbay. He's annoying her. And then he attempts a flip. He knocks over a cart of infectious things where one of them is like, it kind of reminds you of the Hypnotoad from Futurama. His pupils get real big. Yep. And he tries to bond with her by bleeping a bunch of swears, so he's effing and jeffing, and they're bleeping it out, and she just flips out and attacks him.
And she attacks him,
yeah, exactly. Which, you know what, he deserved it, and he's on his way to earning his nickname. which is not what he was open for. His nickname, to jump to the end, his nickname is FO, like FUCKO, F-KO. So I try not to say that word too much on the show. But yeah, what do we find out about the troubled new ensign as Mariner kind of takes her under her wing?
Yeah, so we find out that this ensign is the, and we get this from a briefing that Mariner gets from the captain and Ransom. But we find out that Ollie is the daughter of Zeus, one of the
Plato's stepchildren. Yeah.
Yes.
TOS,
well, not Plato's stepchildren. Who mourns for Adonis? So relation to Apollo.
Oh,
so
I was sticking them with the Plato stepchildren.
No, because she's got powers, so she's related to one of the ones from Apollo's group, which is hysterical because then she's like, I don't have any powers, and we find out that she in fact does. She can generate like rubber lightning bolts.
Yeah, really limp lightning bolts, which, if she was a guy, that would be a real problem.
Yeah. But she's got a laurel that's attached to her head, and she's like, it doesn't come off.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like part of her hair. But yeah, they find it looks like one of the aliens has met with foul play, and they think
it appears that one of the cubes has been killed.
Right, exactly. So she and Mariner, because they're a little bit more lower deckish, they're able to do some investigating, and they do a funny good cop bad cop thing with one of the orbs that they captured. Obviously they're assuming that the orbs did it, and there's back and forth, and we finally get to the end. Where we get it straight out of the outrageous Okana, we do find out that one of the orbs and one of the cubes
have Romeo and Juliet their way over.
Exactly. And they've had they end up having a child who's a dreidel shaped, basically, called Squarin.
Yeah.
But this was we do get a great line from Ransom. So the cubes and the orbs go to war at one point, and they're just destroying the ship, but just leaving burn marks on everything. So I'm like, that has just got to be an absolute bitch to clean off. And Mariner talks Ollie into basically being a battery and absorbing their energy to stop them. But then it's an overload, and she pushes out, and all her little lightning bolts fly around, and one goes right up Boimler's rear end, which lends itself to a great surgery in the surgical amphitheater. Everybody watching Donna remove it.
Pull little pieces of lightning bolt out of his butt.
Oh my gosh! But they do have a great bit before that happens. They all go out into space, and all the cubes form a giant cube, and all the orbs form a giant orb. And Ransom says they're not creative at all, and they're having a big fight. We use the tractor beam to bring them back in again, and that's when we get to Romeo and Juliet in the Squarin bit. But yes, we got a Cerrito Strong in here, which I'm making it a hashtag. Maybe it already is. I will try to drop that on social media. But yeah, that's about it. I don't know. Did we leave anything out?
Not really. Yeah. I mean, there's like a little bit of intrigue with it. They're looking for a computer that's missing, and it turns out that Ollie has hidden it in her locker because she thought that people were going to assume that she had something to do with the missing cube. Right. So there's a little bit of misdirection and shenanigans going on, but outside of that, no, we didn't really. Yeah.
And Ollie is redeemed, but still has to spend the night in a brig because hiding evidence. But then Mariner sits with her because she's like, we're going to be pals now. So it's just
this is my brig time. Go away. I'm going to stay here with you the whole time. It's pretty. So
it's interesting that this episode really illustrates how Mariner and Boimler, who had that same kind of relationship in the beginning, are now kind of pulling apart and having their own little storylines and stuff. So that's good because we're getting ever closer to the end. So I was 9 out of 10 for this one. I mean, Starbase 80 for me was a tough follow-up. This one was, it was pretty raunchy. Like the splat they found in the quarters was what you would expect it would be. And talking about how the cube was talking about how the orb was a great lover, and it was just, and I thought it was a Plato stepchildren callback, but it's Who Mourns for Adonis. So I liked that. But yeah, overall,
it's not as funny as Starbase 80, but it still has a lot of good hysterical moments.
Most definitely. All right. All right, so that wraps us up, and we are jumping back into talking about Star Trek The Next Generation. We are obviously still in season 6, but we're getting into the back end and kind of getting into some different stories. It was funny. We have a two-parter in this group that's not really a two-parter. So we'll talk about that as 2 separate episodes. But usually when you have a two-parter, it's like it's one storyline. But we get 2 storylines that are kind of
it's
tangentially strung together. So it's a little weird. But again, this is the show when I was really watching it hardcore, so I was super into it. So okay, I'll start off. Episode 14 is Face of the Enemy. Gabrielle Beaumont doing the directing, and I feel like we talked about her not that long ago because she was the first female director, I think, of anything related to Star Trek. I think we were talking about her because maybe she passed away, but I could be wrong. I probably should look into it, so don't quote me on that.
She did in 22.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like we talked about it back then. Story by Renee Echevarria and teleplay by Naren Shankar. These guys were a pair that really saw us through the end of TNG. They wrote a great number of stories for want and for good. This is for February of '93. Deanna is involuntarily recruited to assist in the transport of Romulan defectors across the border. So this is a little interrelated to Unification. It's a spin-off of that. Most importantly, this is the very first episode that will follow through the trend until the end of Picard, season 3, where Worf has his beautiful ponytail. So he went from the Donna Reed in the previous episode, and I think it's been stated people can just change the length of their hair by like having a little widget and just going, it's like no big deal. It's easy to change your hair. So that is awesome. But people still get haircuts. So you can't wave it away and make your hair shrink. So I don't know. I know it's a minor
can stimulate
detail.
Growth, but you can't just make it shorter.
Can't make it go away. But yeah, this episode has a great cold open, even though the lighting of it isn't as suspenseful as they try to make it out to be
mostly because there's the logo in the back.
Yeah, well, they start with that with the logo. You know, it's so okay. Oh, it's a Romulan setting, but the lights are off, but there's enough light to see that you hear Deanna's voice, and you can see the silhouette of her as a Romulan, but it isn't until she turns the lights on that she goes, gasp, and the music swells. But I'm like, we already knew that she was wearing a Romulan outfit. But anyway, I guess there wasn't necessarily any other way to do that. But I kind of dug it, the way they tossed us right in there. This agent of the Revolution, who's also a military officer, walks in. It's actor Scott McDonald, who we see in a lot of other Star Treks throughout the years. He's Jem Hadar. He was an officer on Voyager. He's around. He comes in and he says, I work for Spock's movement. We need your help in posing as a officer of the Tal Shiar, which is the first time that we hear about the Tal Shiar. That's the Romulan secret police. And throw your weight around with the commander of this ship, who is played by the exceptional Carolyn Seymour, the actress, who played a different Romulan commander back in season 2. I don't know why they didn't make the same one. I guess it didn't really matter. But that one also might have died because at the end of that episode, the Enterprise flies away and the Romulans still have the virus that maybe the ship exploded and the Enterprise was like, dee, we did what we could. But yeah, it's a lot of Deanna I mean, she gets into the part really quickly because she knows. Yeah. She knows
the scene where she does that is actually really cool, where you have her kind of being a little bit more demure, a little bit like laid back, and then all of a sudden the commander's just like, why do I have to listen to you? And then she's just like, I'm in the Tal Shiar, dumbass. You have to listen to me. Yeah.
Do you want me to do you want me to shoot your cat? Because that's what we do. Yeah. She gets into it real quick.
The switch is like that, and it's really cool.
In there, yeah. So that's some good work on Marina's part. I think that's pretty impressive. Back on the Enterprise picks up a former Starfleet ensign who was a defector 20 years prior, who says, I wanted to come back because I want to help, because I'm part of Spock's movement and I want to help out. And so the Warbird and the Enterprise move towards the same system at the same time because the dissonants are in the Romulan cargo bay. And so in order to get them back, they have, Deanna has to take the Romulan commander out of play. Doesn't kill her, but just kind of says, I'm taking over. And then she's speaking to Picard and Riker and says, lower your shields and we'll beam aboard. And she fires a powerless disruptor beam, which is really a transporter. So the 3 containers with the dissonance appear. But in doing this, the dissonant officer on board the Romulan ship is killed, and Deanna gets beamed out at the last second and restored to her normal appearance, and the episode ends. So, I like this episode. I think it was cool to start the cold open in a way that I think if they lit it a little bit better, it would have been a little more suspenseful. So that I was just watching that was kind of my main thought. I was like, they could have done a little bit better on this. But again, they make the show very rapid fire, so sometimes they just got to punch it through. Yeah. I liked it. There isn't any direct follow-up from this, but other than, these three, dissonant Romulans are now in the hands of the Federation. And hopefully that's something that leads us to what would have been the successful evacuation of the Romulans before the supernova, which didn't end up happening. Maybe this helped pave the way for what that should have been. I don't know. But yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, this is I really, really enjoyed this episode. I'm not sure what it is that I enjoy when someone is unwittingly stuck into the other side, because I also like Second Skin and Deep Space Nine, which is a similar idea, not quite the same.
Yeah.
And I just really enjoy these two episodes. And one of the things about this episode is it's a really, really good one for Deanna to do something other than counseling. Like she's actually allowed to do character things, which is what something they did start to do with her in season 6 more. So this is one of those, and it's just a fun episode. I like it. I like seeing stuff with the Romulans where the Romulans are behaving as Romulans, not like caricatures of themselves or, just a plot device. Like these were Romulans doing Romulan things. And so I appreciated that for this. Right. And it's also one of the few times we see, the interior of a Romulan warbird. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We get dig deep, and we get a little bit more of that, in the end of the season in the Timescape episode directed by Adam Nimoy. It was kind of funny. I actually sent Adam a follow-up email because when I was at my local comic shop last week, Roger at Argos Comic Shop, if you live here in Grand Rapids, should be the place you go to get your comics because Roger and Crystal are amazing, gifted me a lenticular trading card that was for that episode. And I was like, Adam, nice. if we ever meet in person, this is my gift to you. So anyway, he probably thought I was a creepy fan, but I thought I would send him that email anyway. All right. Moving on. Episode 15 is yours.
All right. Episode 15, Tapestry, directed by Les Landau, written by Ronald D. Moore. On February 15th of 93. An accident kills Picard. He finds an afterlife with Q analyzing his past choices. Basically, that's what happens. So, like, the cold open, we get the crew beams Picard to sickbay. He's got, like, a giant mark in the middle of his chest where they talk about how his heart kind of, like, failed. Because if you don't... This is like hearkening all the way back to, I think it was season 2 where we learned that Picard has a artificial heart, which we then see Q hold at one point. It's like, you died because of this. It's got one of my favorite lines in there, favorite exchanges, like, you're dead and I'm God. I cannot believe the universe is so poorly designed. Like, it's such a burn on Q.
He's like, I should smite you or something. But yeah, this is the first since season 1 that we've gotten Q twice, because usually Q just comes a visiting once or twice. And so the center part of this is Picard appearing as Patrick Stewart, walking through the incident where he fought 3 Nausicaans and got stabbed through the chest. His outfit ends up on Starbase 80, which we now find out. So nice little tie right there. But yeah, he makes some different choices. He ends up he has a female friend who they always had an unspoken thing, so they hook up, and then
they decide that was a bad idea.
And then, his best buddy, who's a guy, was going to take revenge for getting cheated, being in a Domjot game with these Nausicaans, who basically they look like the Predator a little bit, but without the mouth that opens from the movie Predator. But they speak in weird broken English, and they're very antagonistic. And it's funny because we get a little bit more of them in Enterprise, but they're retconned and they just talk normally. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, you could always say that these groups, or this particular bunch of them, is just a bunch of dumbasses, which since they're like pool sharks or whatever, that's basically what they are.
Exactly.
They're just a bunch of dummies trying to get a rise out of Starfleet.
Right. So Picard's acting like modern day Picard in the past, totally screws everything up, avoids getting stabbed in the chest. His friends walk off, and then he flashes to the present day. He's back on the
He's not
Enterprise.
wearing red. He's
And
wearing
he's
blue.
wearing that's why you're wearing the outfit. He's now Lieutenant Junior Grade Picard. It's been 40 years, and he's gotten one promotion, and he's just basically he's a lower decker for life. You know,
he is Ensign Kim.
Yeah, he is Ensign Kim, exactly. So he's on the Enterprise. Some guy we've never heard of is the captain. Right, all the other characters are there, and they're just like, "What are you doing on the bridge, dude?" And then
I think it would have been really fun had they mentioned that it was Jellicoe as the captain.
Yeah,
they did.
That would have been a good click. But they make up a name, Captain Thomas Hollowell, who we never hear of again. Probably a real guy within the Star Trek parlance. He ends up down in 10 Forward, where he talks to Troy and Riker, and they say, well, you know, even Riker says, hey, or Troy says, you know, your whole career, you've just kind of played it safe, and that's. You know, you really got to stand out if you want to get noticed. And so Riker says the same thing. And then they're like, well, why don't we talk about some of the time they wander off? And Picard gets into the turbo lift, and he speaks to Q, and he says, I'd rather die on the table than live the life I just saw. And so then he flashes back to the bar, and he goes through the sequence as expected and gets jammed through the chest. And he wakes up back in sick bay. At the beginning of it. So this was It's a Wonderful Life episode.
Yep.
You know, and he wakes up, he's fine. Obviously, Beverly was able to save him. And he has a nice scene at the end where he's talking to Riker and reflects on exactly what we just said. You know, hey, if I didn't take the chances that I did in my youth, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am. And so you just can't. It's a great moral lesson written by one of the greatest television writers that I admire, which is Ron Moore, who gave us Battlestar Galactica and a lot of other great things since then, is that, second guessing your life is useless because
it's one of those, sometimes those decisions that we think are really bad actually help form us into the person that we are now.
I don't want my pain taken away. I need my pain.
It's one of the few lines from Final Frontier that I think is actually insightful.
You see, that's the thing, and it's funny because like you and I don't love Star Trek Discovery, but in all of Star Trek, in Star Trek 5 is a great example, I feel like you can pull out little things to enjoy.
There's always good nuggets. It's just the question of whether or not those nuggets outweigh my ability to handle the rest of the stupid.
Right, exactly. So Star Wars is kind of the same way, but that's conversation for another time and another show. All right, moving on. We have the two-parter that I was talking
also,
to.
fun fact in Tapestry, we get to see the first canonical vision of Maurice Picard.
Right, exactly. Who, ironically, is portrayed in Picard's Rememberings in Picard Season 2 by James Callis, who is Baltar from Battlestar Galactica. So
I don't know if they did that on purpose because Ronald D. Moore wrote this episode. That would be kind of funny.
That would be kind of funny. I'd like that very much. So anyway, all right. Any other thoughts? I'm sorry, I kind of jumped ahead.
That's okay.
Okay.
This is a good episode. There's some good character development here. Q is a butt as usual. It's got one of my favorite moments that got quoted in my house all the time. Is there a Jack Luck Pickard here?
It's kind of like Tony Stank.
It's a hysterical moment, and I mean, I have like a love-hate relationship with this episode because it was on every single time I was traveling or visiting and turned on the television. I was like, I want to watch some Star Trek. There's this channel that has Star Trek. I turn on, it's always Tapestry. So I like this episode, but I'm also tired of it.
It's following you around like a loose string on that tapestry.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. All right. Huge fan. Ron Moore. Great lesson, particularly because I was 17 when I saw this episode, so I was at that point where my whole life ahead of me, and I've made some questionable choices in my life, like every other adult has, but it's got me to where I am, which is a very happy place in my life. So I would not pull on that tapestry either. All right, episode 16. Again, we're getting into a two-parter that we'll actually discuss as two single episodes because
it's not.
It's what is in part 2 is very tangential in part 1. But anyway, the two-parter is called Birthright. Part 1 is directed by Winrich Colby. Brandon Braga does the writing from February 20 2 of 93. That was the week of my 17th birthday. My birthday is February 23. Worf is told on Deep Space Nine, so a little bit of sneaking onto the new sets and a crossover, that his father is alive and being held prisoner by the Romulans. Meanwhile, an engineering experiment which involves Dr. Bashir, who is Sid is a guest star in this episode, accidentally results in Data's first dream. Guest star is James Cromwell as Jaglum Shrek, which almost sounds like Jack and Pog from Prodigy, but they're not related because Jack
No, because he's an Iridian.
Yeah, exactly. But this is the first time we really spent with the Iridian. Yeah, and James Cromwell's character is kind of a jerkwad. And so the Worf part of the storyline is maybe 25% of the episode. The other 75 is Data's story.
Yeah, and I mean, they kind of did it as Birthright Parts 1 and 2, I think, because both of the stories are dealing with what we would consider the birthright of some character. Right. In the first part, it's Data. In the second part, it's not Worf, it's other Klingons.
Right.
And then, that's really the only... And because there's a thread of Worf starts his story in the first episode and then finishes the story in the second episode. That's why they did part 1 and 2. But other than that, there's not really a...
because Data's story is smaller,
and it doesn't even do anything in part 2.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just over because we don't even see any of the
no, we don't go back to the Enterprise at all until the end.
Until the last scene of part 2, but we'll get to part 2 in a minute. Data's story, and again, it wraps up because it's kind of low stakes, but in some ways it's not. It does advance things for the character a little bit. But it doesn't nearly carry the weight of what Worf's going through, which is why. And again, the DS9 and having Dr. Bashir, that's cool because this show had only been on the air for about a month when this crossover happened. DS9 bowed in January of 93. So that was, kind of a like, hey, watch our new show, which is kind of annoying in its own way, but whatever. The Data story was just okay. Where the Worf story, I felt very engaging because this ends in a cliffhanger because Worf gets to this prison planet. James Cromwell drops him off and says, well, I can't stick around, so I'll be back, but be here and blah, 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 and this and that. So Worf finds his way to the compound. He finds a young woman bathing in the moonlight, and he's like, I'm not looking at that. But he confronts her, and it's a young woman of Klingon appearance. And she's like, well, I live here with my family. Let me take you inside. And he comes inside, and he starts talking to an older Klingon who is played by actor Richard Hurd, who is Owen Paris, Tom Paris's father, underneath all that makeup. And they tell Worf, well, we actually live here peacefully and you can't leave. So that's the end of part 1. And then we get into part 2. Other thoughts about part 1 before we move on?
I thought that it was interesting, all the stuff with Data, with the dreams, especially how they made it so that the dreams always had meaningful imagery, which is, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Right. But it was an interesting trope to kind of follow of having dreams and having that sort of introspection was what helped Data become more human. And the whole thing of it was you are the Raven, you're being forced. There was some really interesting imagery stuff going on. And I thought it was also really funny where, Bashir is using this potentially dangerous piece of equipment, and their first thought is, well, you shouldn't be doing it in this science lab. You should be doing it in engineering right next to you.
I will never, ever forget. I feel like we talked about this in our last episode.
We talk about this every time.
In season 4, in the one where Geordi gets brainwashed by Romulans, let's do this phaser test. Pointing at I can't tell if it was pointing at or away from the warp core, but I'm like, I know you guys are just trying to save money on sets, but do it in the cargo bay, for God's sake. Yeah. So dumb.
Yeah, there's other places to do this. Do it in the shuttle bay. But it was just another really hysterical moment. It's cool how Picard is very supportive of Worf's decision to try to go find his father. Because, it's this could change everything. 1, it could change everything for your discommendation. 2, it could just help you put everything together as a person. And so it's just really, really cool how he gets sent out there.
Yeah.
And then, James Cromwell playing a Eurydian named Shrek is just funny.
And this was before. This was before Shrek.
This was well before Shrek,
Yeah.
but it's just funny to me.
Yeah, yeah, and it's way before First Contact. So, all right, Part 2 is yours. Let us have it.
All right, Birthright Part 2, directed by, interestingly, Dan Curry, who does a lot of the makeup and special effects stuff.
Right.
Written by Renee Echeverria, aired on March 1st of 93. Worf, now a prisoner, tries to teach the Klingon refugees the way of the warrior. In classic Worf fashion, where it's a little intense and over the top.
Right. That's what he does. He's what did George Lucas say? Faster and with more intensity.
Yeah, pretty much.
Worf.
I mean, the interesting thing about Worf is like because he didn't he didn't experience his formative years in Klingon culture. He has like this ideal of what Klingons are.
Right.
And so then the reality is slightly less than that. And so every time he bumps into real Klingons, he's always a little disappointed, which is funny.
Yeah. Oh, you guys aren't eating the heart of Targ and stuff. Come on now. Yeah.
But it's interesting because we find out that this camp is run by Romulans. But it's kind of an integrated thing. It's not like the Klingons are prisoners. They're there because the Romulans, we find out later in the episode, the Romulan commander was given the command of we're leaving, you need to kill them all. And he was like, I'm not doing that. And so they just kind of stayed there.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't let him go because then, everyone would know things that the Romulans and the Klingons both didn't want anybody to know.
Right. Yeah. They had to be the dirty little secret. And so, they sat there for,
they sat there, but then they started the Romulan commander married one of the Klingon women. Like there's lots
those are the parents of the girl who's falling for Worf,
which Worf is mildly horrified by it.
Right. Yeah. Because that is actress Jennifer Gotti, who not only was Libby, who was Harry Kim's girlfriend in a flashback episode or a reality episode of Voyager we saw in season 2. But I know I've mentioned this before. She got her start in the 1983 music video for Bon Jovi's song Runaway, which was their first mildly big hit. She was the star of that video. So weird. Since then, no idea what she's been in. Other stuff.
I'm sure. But we get all sorts of things of Worf trying to teach them how to use weapons, like they're using Klingon weapons as hoes and other farming tools.
I'm going to till this with a batleth. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not quite that bad, but
it's one of the batleth pikes, and so he gets incensed with that. The kids are just like, oh, it's a tool.
Yeah.
They're playing another game, and then Worf throws a spike. It's like, that's not how you play. No, this is how you play. It's how training your reflexes and all this
for
stuff.
The hunt. And this is our first real drill down of Klingon, war party hunting, which is obviously a huge deal, because of course that's how Martok gets kidnapped by the Dominion. So it comes back again and again. But this young kid, I think his name is Talk, becomes a Kool-Aid drinker real fast. He's all into Klingon stuff. He puts on the armor because at the end of it, Worf says, "Well, if you won't let me go, you're going to have to kill me because I will. I'm not going to bend. I'm not going to break. I'm going to, I'm Klingon AF. I'm not going to die."
Yeah.
So at the end of it, they're going to firing squad him, but then Talk pops up wearing the armor and says, "You're going to have to shoot me too." And then everybody else stands in front of it. So,
and then most of the kids and some of the old Klingons decide that they're going to leave.
Yeah. But the girl stays. She stays with her parents. And so yeah, and we never hear about her again. It's not like Worf looked her up after Jadzia got killed. It was just like, nope. Or when he broke up with Troy, which happened off screen after the end of the series. So boy, Worf and his women, my goodness.
He's not have quite very good luck.
Yeah.
He's not to the same tier as
he's
Geordi.
Not the Riker level. He doesn't have as bad a luck as Geordi does. But at the end of it, Geordi's the only one of them besides Riker and Troy that settled down and had a family, and he did so,
that we know of
successfully. So, but don't know if he married Leah Brahms. I'd like to think that he did, but who knows? Definitely for me, part 2 far outshines part 1. Even though you had mentioned there was some interesting stuff with the dream imagery with Data, but I love Worf. Worf Riker
is a great character.
Worf is Riker is my, because I've modeled a lot of my look after him, and he was a role model to me growing up because I was young and loved the character. But Worf is probably the most enduring character in all of Star Trek, and he's the one who's had the most time on screen. So we've learned more about him because he was in a series and a half, 4 movies, and then the last season of Picard. So we've seen a lot of Worf. It's always good stuff. Okay. Other thoughts? I'm sorry, I don't want to do it again.
No,
You good? All right,
it's
cool.
good.
Good deal. All right. Very fun episode. 18 is Starship Mine. Cliff Bowl doing the direction with Morgan Grendel as a writer. Not a name I'm familiar with, so this could be another Slush script. Week of March 29, 93. I remember this was spring break, and it aired after a basketball game or something. And I was going to my dad's the next week over in Detroit. I was going to work for him and spend the week there for spring break. But this was on at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I still stayed up to tape it. I was hardcore. I was Starfleet AF. It was not going to let me down. So my old, copy from Channel 3 here in West Michigan. Thieves attempt to steal trilithium from the Enterprise during a baryon sweep. At the Remler array, and Picard alone must thwart them. In a nutshell, Star Trek's Die Hard.
Yep.
Absolutely loved it. Super fun stuff. We have a B story with the crew down on the planet. There's a great scene because the cold open is the ship evacuating and everybody's coming up. Hey, I don't have enough something to do this and that, or the schedule's offline. Is off. We're off schedule on deck 12 or something. And he gets in the turbo lift with Data, and Data starts making small talk with him, and Picard's like, "Are you all right?" He says, "I'm attempting to fill a silent moment with non-relevant discourse," or something like that. Small talk. I love that, and it's all because the guy who runs the base is this small talk master who comes up to people and is like, "Hey, blah blah blah, this thing and that thing. Did you know blah 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 this thing and that thing?" And he's legendary. He should be on Starbase 80.
One of my favorite moments is like, they've been at it for 30 minutes. How long can you talk about nothing?
I'm like, Seinfeld was on for 8 years. That's what that makes me think of. But things, turn poorly down on the surface because there's a group of their associates to the commander guy. And one of them is Glenn Morshower, who is a great actor, appeared in Star Trek a lot, also had a big role on Fox's 24, which is one of my favorite shows from the early 2000s. So they take our people prisoner. And Picard, who had beamed up to the ship to get his saddle, which is a running joke throughout the episode. Captain, you keep a saddle on the Enterprise? Gets accosted by one of the eventual terrorists, who is Tim Russ. About a year before he was cast as Tuvok. He's just a human character in this. We do see him about a year after this as a Starfleet officer who was on the Enterprise B. And then he's a Klingon in between on DS9. So he definitely ping-ponged around. Tim Russ is somebody that I think eventually Peter and I will have an interview with. We just haven't set it up yet. But yes, he does die. So one by one, Picard has to outsmart all of these terrorists as this baryon sweep, which will kill anything it touches, goes from the back of the ship to the front of the ship. The head terrorist, it's an actress who, like, she has a look like, oh, she's been in stuff, but I've never seen her in anything else. But she's got you know what I'm saying? She's kind of got that look like, oh, she was probably big on Dallas or something, or some show that was on the early 90s, but she wasn't. At the end, Picard outsmarts her, and she's got the little device with the trilithium, which is something that they're going to sell. And he pulls the control rod off of it in secret. She beams out onto a ship. The ship blows up as it flies away. And we have at the very last minute, they're in 10 forward, the green baryon sweep is coming towards Picard. And I do love how he's crawling up the pylon because the windows are sloped. And he goes, one is like, Data, turn it off. Data, turn it off. Or a carrier base, turn it off. And it flickers and shuts off at the last minute.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Super fun episode. I absolutely love this. It's nice to see Picard shine, because the role of the captain in the 24th century is that they don't go on away missions. They don't get a lot of the fighting. So episodes like this, or episodes like Macrocosm from Voyager, where Janeway gets to take the lead and be very action-oriented, running around with the phaser rifle, absolutely awesome. And Picard didn't even have any traditional weapons in this, because you can't use
one of Worf's crossbows.
Yeah, exactly. We never get to see Worf with a crossbow, but of course he has one. This was like MacGyver crossed with Die Hard, and totally awesome episode. Absolutely,
it's a great episode. Yeah.
So, but you can't have great. You can't have
some
great.
Really funny stuff on the planet when Data is trying to follow along, where you have like some very, very classic Brent Spiner facial just contortions.
Yeah.
but in full Data makeup, which is just really funny because he's not playing lore, he's not doing the emotion chip. It's just Data trying to do small talk, and it's just really if you haven't paid attention to that, just kind of keep your eye on Data through that scene. It's really funny.
Brent Spiner doing what Brent Spiner does best is absolutely great stuff. So, well, cool. Well, you can't have a great episode without moving on to what I think is a crappy one. So, Peter, number 19 is all yours.
Episode 19, Lessons. They needed to learn one. Directed by Robert Weimer, written by Ronald Wilkinson and Jean-Louis Matthias. Aired April 5th of 93. Picard becomes involved with a woman who is serving on the Enterprise in the science department, but he must send her into a dangerous mission. Yep.
Sure does.
That's pretty much what happens. So like
that's it.
He's up late. The replicators aren't working because for some reason they have to divert all power to the deflector. So he goes down to Astrometrics and finds the lead scientist there. They have a little bit of an exchange. Then he finds out later at a concert with Data that she plays the piano, and they have a shared love of music. They start to play. They talk about that. They play music together with the Resican flute, and then kind of a romance blossoms from there. I
guess, yeah.
It's
just so weird.
It feels a lot like the episode wanted to explore the consequences of having relationship with the captain and how that can prevent you from doing your job or the captain from making the correct decision. That was the issue they wanted to explore, but they didn't have like a really, really good way to get there.
Yeah, it was very slow going. I mean, the crux of, because you got to have kind of a disaster of the week to solve it. In this case, it was a Federation colony on this planet,
and there was like a firestorm that was coming through that they couldn't stop. So they needed to build,
this
sonic walls, basically.
Right, and so this Nella Darren, who is his girlfriend, has to be in charge of one of the teams, but it's very dangerous. And Riker is down there as well. He escapes, but her team doesn't make it out. So we get this kind of couple minutes of tension until we find out that she's rescued, but people did die and it was very dangerous, but they managed to rescue I think most of the colonists,
most of the people. And I think they lost a couple,
but at the end of it, Picard is like, well, the thing is that if you would have died and I sent you there, I was thinking how I'd never be able to enjoy my music again and blah blah blah. So it was very maudlin. And Peter, I know romantic stories are just not your cup of tea, and sometimes
it depends, but usually not.
I tend to really dig them because I think it's kind of, it's a slice of life, and I've had my ups and downs in romance in my life, so I appreciate that kind of story. I did not appreciate this story. I thought it was very maudlin. The stakes were super low. But again, they're trying to accomplish all of it in 44 minutes of show. And she comes in, they do their thing, and then she transfers out, or maybe she stays. I can't remember.
She transferred to a space station.
Yeah, exactly. So to go
end.
on and do her thing, and then she's never heard. Yeah, she's never heard from again. So it's not like Picard looks her up, or because again, we know that his real destiny is to be with Beverly and have a kid with Beverly. Sorry about that. And then have her ghost him for 25 years.
Yeah.
This was a dud for me, which makes it really easy to get into the last part of our show. But any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
I thought it was kind of fun how they picked like a spot on the ship that was the most acoustically perfect, which ended up being cool. A random Jeffries tube.
Right.
If only because like there's then in Enterprise you have the spot where the gravity is just so.
Right.
And
which
like,
also ties back to the Starbase. Everything is Starbase 80 in this episode.
Yeah. So it's just interesting how you have all these like where they're able to do that. And her piano was like, as a pianist, I'm not sure what to think of it because it's not a full keyboard.
Yeah, because it's like a rollout. It's like a snap out like mouse pad or something.
Yeah,
they had those snap bracelets.
It's a roll up keyboard, but it's funny to me because it like clearly they had a real pianist play the music because it's a real piano that you're hearing out of that, not a synthesizer.
So it's fancy tech, yeah.
It's fancy tech, but it was just really small because, like, okay, well, normal pianists need to play like you need more keys,
and you don't have the foot pedals and stuff.
So, so for that, it kind of annoyed me. But it was like it's kind of fun to see someone who's like, it's not the violin, it's not the oboe, it's not a handheld instrument. It's an instrument that needs to have space, and they made it smaller.
That was and that was cool. That was a very Star Trek 24th century.
It's a very Star Trek thing, and it was also cool how they brought in the Resican flute and actually had Picard using it. And we see this, like, we saw him use this in A Fistful of Datas earlier, and like this instrument shows up repeatedly. I've actually seen at least one of the props because I think they have more than one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a great episode.
Yeah,
I don't really enjoy it, but there's some fun things in it, I guess.
Right, just like we were talking about, you kind of pull something cool out of episodes that are otherwise not so great. So, all right, well, let's wrap it up. Let's have a favorite and a least favorite of this batch. Go for it.
Well, I'm going to say that my least favorite is Lessons, just because I just don't care that much.
Yeah, it's tough.
And for my favorite, I'm probably going to go with Face of the Enemy. As much as like I like Worf stories and I like Tapestry, because Tapestry is a good story. I like Q. We get the Return of the Monster Maroon. Like, there's lots of cool things about Tapestry, but I just really like the whole dynamic going on in Face of the Enemy.
Right. Very true. Yeah. It's funny because it was a super easy choice to pick a loser where picking a winner is hard. I'm going to go with Tapestry because, again, it's Ron Moore doing what he does best. Echoes of his brilliance that go into DS9, that go on into into BSG and into other things. I've not watched that show yet.
That's a good one. You should see it.
Yeah, but no, I really liked it, and I think it delivered. While the stakes were low because the whole thing was, Bobby in the shower scene, it was a hallucination. It helped. It was a moment of discovery for Picard, and it was a moment of discovery for all of us. Again, I was a young man at the time to think about, hey, things in life happen for a reason, and you're destined for something else. So don't like, the Kenny Loggins song says, don't fight it. Yeah, good stuff. Awesome. Well, that wraps us up. No comments this week from the Discord or Facebook or the mailbag, but reach out. Definitely, I'll always post something on my socials, which I'll say in a minute here. But if, concerning what, I'll let you know what we're talking about. We want to have some user comments to talk about, the material that we're discussing in the episode. So the mailbag, of course, is secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. Peter and I are both active over on the Secret Friends Unite Discord. That is where most of our great conversations are happening. But Peter, where do people find you?
You can find me around the interwebs at Petrus Aquinas. I'm not terribly active, but I'm around. You can also find me over on ELH's Twitch and YouTube channel, or his Discord. And you can find me behind the scenes at Starship Excelsior.
Excellent. I finally have all of my handles the same on Threads, Instagram, and now Blue Sky. I am at the C3, TheCeethree. Hit me up there and look at my misadventures. I'm never doing anything too dramatically exciting, but I am sharing and caring about fun geek stuff when we can. But yeah, our Discord there, or the other server that I've got, the United Trekkers of Michigan, is just a great place to talk about Star Trek all the time. So with that, friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trekking.
Peace and long life.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.